Hello, Frugal fans. This is Captain Frugal, and today I'm going to be reviewing an older comic book, Mr. Terrific #1 from the New 52. Alright, Mr. Terrific, issue #1, came from the New 52. Now, this issue in particular was released in 2011. In September 2011, Mr. Terrific received his own self-titled ongoing series, which is written by Eric Wallace, as part of the DC's New 52 Reboot. Also, during this period, he was given a new costume design, which I believe was designed by Cully Hamner. And also, they've changed a few other aspects of this. Personally, I like the older version costume better, but we'll go into that later. Now, the first issue is Eric Wallace, writer. Artist, I cannot really pronounce his name. Google Walladadia or whatever. Sorry, I butcher his name terribly. This character first appeared in The Spectre, Volume 3, issue number 54, which was June 1997. This was actually the second person to take the mantle as Mr. Terrific. So in this book, we start with Mr. Terrific looking for some kind of suit of armor. Mr. Terrific's real name, Michael, is attacked by a man named Dalton in an armor. Now, while on the run, Mr. Terrific says that he does not know much about London and uses a Doctor Who reference. So, that was sort of cool. Mr. Terrific devises a plan to stop Dalton. Mr. Terrific captures Dalton in some steel framework by magnetizing Dalton. And in this book, it's showing, and in this section particularly, that this character's good. Mr. Terrific's very well educated, so that's cool. And Mr. Terrific then refers to himself as the third smartest man in the world, really beefing that up even more. And he is in the books. He's always been a brilliant character. Now, in the next story transition, we're back at in this story. We're going back into his backstory to see what happened with him. And it shows that he had everything he ever wanted by his 13th birthday. They showed him growing up. He was an Olympic gold medalist, has many degrees from prestigious colleges. He has a net worth of over $1 billion. Yet he's always had one thing that he's valued most, and that's his wife, Paula. But unfortunately, Michael was late to meet his wife for dinner, and while on the way, he found Paula receiving medical attention at a car accident. As his wife lay there dying, she made a request to him with her last breaths for Michael to educate the world. And Michael's family was his world at that point. And the death of Paula really, changed what his focus was going to be. With him losing that component of his family, he put his focus now on science. And eventually, even science wasn't enough, and Michael intended to commit suicide. But before Michael was able to kill himself, he received a message from a visitor telling him not to give up, making things even more interesting. He finds out the visitor is his son, possibly from the future. But before Michael can get more information, there's an explosion. Then the story takes us back to the present day, to Michael's home. Michael's having a discussion with his friend Karen about not seeing him again soon, but he seeing that his son again soon from the future version of himself, if you will. They were having a talk about that past situation. And Michael asks Karen to stay for dinner. The story then takes us to a cafe downtown in Los Angeles, and they show a character named Edgar Holloway. It's just not really an important character, but he hears a noise, and then he starts acting very strange, almost like he's completely honest and there's no filter to his brain, to his mouth anymore. And when Edgar leaves the cafe, he's offended so many people, he's attacked by a person, but he easily breaks that person's neck and kills them. So the story then takes us to the police station, where we discover that that person was also writing after that very complex scientific notation all day long. And Mr. Terrific, being as smart as he is, can figure out what those things mean. So Mr. Terrific comes to a conclusion that Edgar's mind must have been altered, and then he uses a dimensional portal to access his private sanctum known as the T Sanctuary, where he will look into the case. The story next takes us to the Conscience Institute in California, where there's a party. And this is, I think, a big part where the book starts to go astray. Karen and Michael's girlfriend did not get along. There's an altercation there. Then we see Michael's, the character, Mr. Terrific, affected by the sound. He calls this Republican senator a hypocrite and says he becomes president of the world. If he becomes president of the world will suffer. And he uses this computer device to destroy a building so that he could try to kill the senator. Okay. Now, I didn't get into a whole lot of particular details here about what the girlfriend and the friend's discussion was aggravating about, but it was a race kind of thing in a way not. And so then there's more things about this senator here too about that was discussed. So I'm going to get into pros and cons, but I'll leave that to the cons. Let's first look at the pros of this book. He's an interesting character that really could use a lot more exploration. I've always liked this character, and I thought he never gets the detail and attention that he could get. The artwork in this book is pretty darn good, so that's definitely good as well. All right, and the book also opens up with an interesting, somewhat story to look into to move us on to the next issue. But unfortunately, the cons on this book really pounded it, in my opinion. The book panders to stereotypes from the statement where Mr. Triffick says, "Actually, simple thanks, black guy, for saving us from a homicidal lunatic wearing weaponized armor will do." Why did he need to say that? You know, when he saved these people, and he mentioned he was the third smartest person in the world, they asked who the first two were, and he says that's just ridiculous. I mean, why are we playing to these stereotypes in this book? Now, the book also gets into politics, too, where Michael acknowledges that he's a liberal atheist. And he said this, remember, he's the third smartest person in the world, so, that's the way to be, evidently. And he said that supporting a Republican politician, he is supporting a Republican politician because he's called out his own party for de-emphasizing science in public schools. Once again, this is stereotyping Republican politicians, because once again, why are they doing this? Let's reduce 50% of our buying population. Why don't we get politics out of these books? You can use a little politics here and there, but this was overkill. I mean, really, I'm voting for you because you called out your own party for de-emphasizing science. Not all Republicans do that. Also, during the party, there's a rift between Michael's girlfriend and his friend Karen. Karen says that she's been staring at her all night, and Karen accuses Michael's girlfriend of not liking her because she's a white girl. And Michael's girlfriend's response is also pandering to stereotypes too. So once again, we have Republicans bad. They don't like science. Racism. It seems like why every time we have to have a black hero in a book, why do we have to make racism an issue? I mean, really. It's taking away from the character. This character has so much good going for him. Leave that crap out. This could be a much better story if they leave that race out and the politics out. Why do they have to make this like this? The idea of using race seems forced in this book, too, to create shock value rather than actually basing the story on the story itself. The story could have been so much better if they left politics and race out. And thirdly, personally, I like the old version of the costume with the jacket. It's so much better than Desynchronization. This one looks a little more futuristic, I suppose, but the jacket one, Mr. Triffick just looks like a bad dude. I mean, he's awesome looking. This one was just So overall, this book could have been a lot better. It had a lot of potential going for it. Unfortunately, I have to give it a D. It would have been probably a C, C+, maybe probably a C+ if they would have left the politics and things out of it. If they would use that time there to flesh out the characters and things in a little bit better of a way, probably could even have been a B. So unfortunately, this book, I'm going to have to give a D. Now, looking back to the future, if you will, on January 12th of 2012, DC announced they would be ending 6 of the lower-selling New 52 titles in April and replacing them by different titles in a revamped, second wave. Mr. Terrific was canceled, so this series only made it 8 issues, and that only makes me wonder how much longer could this book have lasted if they didn't turn away its audience, half of its audience right away with this politics and race stuff. Keep that out of there. This could have been a much better book and probably had a lot better run. All right, well, these are my views, not yours. So, if you don't like them, I'm sorry about that. Please feel free to leave your views in the comments. And if there's any books you're interested in me possibly reviewing later, doesn't matter early or new, I'm more than happy to check into that if I can. So until then, keep it frugal. Thank you once again, Frugal fans, for listening. If you want to see more of my reviews, you can always check out more at thehenchmanslounge.com. And please don't forget to hit like and subscribe.